Hi, I'm Stanislav Pronin. I was on vacation in Italy a few weeks ago, riding boats, doing cool things, but I realized that I really wanted to get back into action, to perform on stage. And part of me just really missed the stress, which is what I want to talk about today. I'm sure you all heard that old expression, stress kills, but actually stress doesn't kill. Stress can be your best friend and one of the best tools in succeeding in anything in life. However, the failure to identify the main reasons for stress, that's what kills, literally, metaphorically speaking. So let's discuss the 4 main causes of stress on stage. My grandfather and my first teacher was a student of Pyotr Stoliarskiy. Stoliarskiy was the teacher of the great David Oistrakh, among many other famous students. My grandfather told me that Stoliarskiy liked to tell his students they should be prepared 200% for every concert. Then, in case of stress, nerves, whatever it is, if 100% of quality disappears, then you still have that 100% base where you play really well and everybody's happy and great. But I think it's a very silly way of putting it. All it means basically, in vague terms, is you should be sufficiently prepared. So when you ask yourself a question, am I sufficiently prepared? What does it even mean? Can anybody tell me? What does it mean? Am I sufficiently prepared? What is sufficient preparation? There is no such thing as being sufficiently prepared. Sufficiently. Sufficiently in terms of what? Technically you can always play better. Musically, you can always play more interestingly. Right? So I was never happy with a single one of my performances. Was I not prepared? No, I was prepared. But this sufficient preparation nonsense, was it 200%, maybe 177, so you cannot go on stage? It's nonsense. The truth of the matter is, you are as prepared as you're ever going to be. That's how you should think about it when you go on stage. You're as prepared as you will ever be, because the concert is now. I've been in situations myself where I felt really underprepared because I couldn't practice. I had some shoulder injury. Then I had to go play in a competition or concert, and it turned out better than I ever expected because I focused so much on what I was doing, and this adrenaline actually helped me push through. When you go on stage, all you can think about is that moment. That's all you have to focus on. Because if you practice 9, 10, 20 hours every day, that's not going to save you if you lose your focus and concentration. And sometimes when you're underprepared, you can actually play really well. Underprepared as in, you didn't practice 9 hours every day for the past, 2 months. You can still play great because you're so focused that it raises awareness, and these small details that could have gone wrong, they don't, because you are not relying on your perfect, sufficient preparation. So forget about all of that. Just be focused on that moment, that second. The time that you're on stage is the most important one. Forget how much you practiced and the sufficient preparation crap. That's all nonsense. You ever been playing on stage and you're like, oh, there's a difficult passage coming up and there's those double stops and arpeggios or whatever it is, 4 octaves something, and alarm bells are ringing. You're like, what's gonna happen? You know what? Nothing is gonna happen, especially if you practiced it. We all play mind games with ourselves and it doesn't result in something good. It's never positive. So what can you do in this situation? If you're gonna be like, I'm not gonna think about it, you're gonna think about it even more because it's this reverse psychology process. So what we need to do is reverse those games against themselves. So how do we do that? Well, for example, you have a very difficult place coming up, difficult passage. And instead of thinking, oh, like this, maybe you should welcome it and say, oh yeah, good, it's coming up, good. It's also brainwashing a little bit, right? Brainwashing in a good way. So you're saying, good, I welcome it. Not only will I not back away from it, I will aggressively attack this place and I will show everybody that I can play it better than anybody in any recording in the world. That's how you deal with stress. And these mind games will not influence you because they're weaker than you. You're stronger than them. This is the strength of character you should exhibit as an artist. Don't back away from difficulties, invite them in. One of the most common reasons for stress on stage is simply lack of experience, but it's quite easy to deal with. So the more you perform on stage with high quality, always coming prepared, like we said, as prepared as you can be, basically it's as simple as that. That's all you need to do. You need to perform, play the same works many times, and you gain confidence on stage. So that one is not so complex. And most people I know deal with it quite successfully. We've now identified a few basic causes for stress, but maybe you'll ask me, what about if I simply have stage anxiety, stage fright? What do I do then? Well, when you experience stress, then we have to talk about adrenaline and cortisol being released into the system. And I will talk about it much more in depth, including nutrition advice and exercise advice and all of that in later episodes. But adrenaline is not a bad thing. I'm sure you've heard some stories about people in stressful situations who do amazing things. Suddenly they can lift 2 tons or something like that, right? That's not a fable. That's because your body gets into this fight or flight mode, right? So on stage, when you experience adrenaline, just go with it. I don't know if you like martial arts or not. I do. I'm personally a big fan of UFC and boxing and all of that. But everybody has heard the term roll with the punches. So in boxing and martial arts, in any combat sports, if somebody punches you, you have the option to block. And blocking reduces the impact of the punch. However, if your opponent is strong enough, they can even break your wrist. It's not gonna reduce the power of the punch, it's just gonna partially reduce it. So instead of blocking, boxers and martial artists, they roll with the punches. That means they go in the direction of the punch. They sort of accept it, you know, and that reduces the momentum of the punch, and it's much more effective than a block most of the time. So how do we apply that to music? Well, in order to roll with the punch, you have to identify the punch is coming. So you know that the stress might be there. You have to be prepared for the punch. You have to be prepared for the stress. Once you accept that stress is coming, you're no longer afraid of it. You know it's gonna be there. You're ready to deal with it psychologically. You don't need to have anxiety when you play on stage. You need to have excitement, enthusiasm. You need to think about what you're doing, right? So stress is not really a factor in that case. Stress is just present because you want maybe to do well, whatever, but this is all things that we don't need to think about. You're ready for it, you accept it. You know, when you listen to a concert and you go, wow, that wow is what you need. The wow factor is an edge. And stress gives you this extra edge that you need. This adrenaline, it can be the biggest friend that you have on stage. Nobody wants to go into a concert hall and hear, oh, it's like, oh, it's nice, calm, relaxed person playing. No, they want to hear this edge. They want to be wowed. And in order to do that, you need to have this adrenaline. It will help you. The stress is the best thing that ever happened to any performer. Stress is your best friend as a performer. Trust me. If you use it correctly, it will give you an edge like you've never had before. In my next episodes, I will talk about how to avoid excessive cortisol release into the system, how to deal with mind games and many other things, so please stay tuned.